Welcome to the podcast. Today's guest is Nick Ruddock. Nick, welcome aboard, mate.
Thanks, Dom. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
So obviously we've been meaning to do this one for a while, but obviously now we're both in lockdown, it's a perfect time to get something recorded. So if you give everyone a bit of an intro into who you are, and we can go from there, mate.
Thanks, Dom. Yeah, I think both our schedules just haven't really aligned, have they, in terms of getting on the bank and doing one of these. So my name's Nick. I've been fishing for, well, like most people probably listen, I've been fishing since I was a child. Memories of hitting the bank with my dad on the waggler and stuff like that. I'm now obviously deep into my carp fishing. I'm actually my profession. I'm a gymnastics coach. My business is all based around sort of working with Olympic level athletes in various parts of the world. So it's certainly not a professional angler or a sponsored angler, or do I have much credibility within the angling world either? But I've certainly got maybe a bit of an insight into some of the experiences that I've had recently, and I've been fortunate to have with some well-known anglers. So that's been great. But yeah, I'm from Surrey. I live up in Durham now. Have to drive a fair way to get to the lakes that I'm fishing. But yeah, hopefully I can sort of bring some value to the audience.
Oh, cool. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about your business and what you do before we move on to the fishing side of things.
Okay.
Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so I did gymnastics at a recreational level. wasn't very good between the ages of sort of 5 and 15 years old, and then organically got into coaching. Did some travel into the US and various parts of the world, and fast-tracked my sort of development as a coach. That progressed to being the national coach for the Great Britain gymnastics team, and then having worked with various athletes at sort of Olympic level who have gone on to win medals at that level as well, it kind of developed a business on the back of it. So my company now is essentially a education provider. So, we've got a mission of developing high performance coaches in various parts of the world. I've been lucky enough to consult for 22 of the sort of international Olympic teams, from Brazil to Australia, Romania, Germany. I mean, quite a few, like I said, 2022. And now I've got a variety of services on the back of that. So I run big conferences, coaching programs, membership models, got my own podcast. So lots of different services and things which kind of spin off the topic of educating coaches and working with sort of top level athletes, really.
Brilliant. How long have you been doing that for, Nick?
Started the business 2014, so 6 years in the business itself. I've been coaching. I'm 32 now, so coaching 15, 17 years. I've been coaching. Not at a high level, of course. It took me a few years to get into the higher level stuff. But yeah, it's awesome. And I guess normally on my day-to-day life, I'm traveling around the world consulting. So a typical month could be 4 or 5 countries. And so this kind of lockdown experience has actually been quite nice for me, being at home. Fortunately, I've got the digital side of the business, which is like my coaching programs and my online content, and that's allowed me to, keep the business alive. Although it just sort of scraping back a few areas like staff costs, but we've kept going, which is good. And then looking forward to getting on the outside and obviously getting on the bank as well.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's really good. And fair play to you for having such a diverse business model as well, to allow you to sort of be able to carry on. And you think, for what you've just said, how many countries you typically visit, and you're still able to run the business when we're sort of locked down.
Yeah, I think so. The beauty of that, I mean, I'm all about community. I think the community is really important, and the gymnastics world, of course, we're all spread out, but it's actually quite a tight community. And the more countries I visit, the more events that I speak at and conferences that I'm a guest at and all that. Of course, it's helping me to build my tribe, if you like, and supporters that buy into my mission and my vision for the way that gymnastics should be taught and the approach to coaching and things. And that helps me to build the customer base as well. So it's fun for me to be on the road. And my partner, my fiance Leonie, has also been able to travel the world with me, because she's an ex-gymnast as well for GB. So it's perfect, really. Right. It's created a nice lifestyle for us. It's not without hard work, but
no, of course. Yeah, credit to you. Yeah, brilliant. Because it's a long old road, isn't it? And quite a slog.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a big difference between being self-employed and having, a business which is ticking over, but then also, getting to that next stage of going, well, actually, we need to really scale now. We need to we need to be a multinational country. We need to, we're employing 3 or 4 members of staff. I think that's been quite a big jump for me.
Yeah.
And we still got a long way to go. I'm nowhere near where we want the company and the business to be, and I've got other companies as well which are sort of within the same industry but are doing different things. So you're right, and I guess part of not the downside, the entrepreneurialism can be a right pain in the ass, because you end up you're so lit up and on fire and passionate about things, but then you find that you might get a bit distracted by new
Mm.
projects as opposed to just sticking to one thing, you know.
Yeah. Changing things or sort of looking for new things
That's
when the
it. Yeah,
things you're
always
currently
looking
doing are
for new.
working fine.
Yeah, always looking for the new opportunity rather than actually really
Yeah.
sorting out the one that you're already working on. Hey ho.
No, definitely. We obviously we sort of crossed paths, didn't we? I think a couple of the entrepreneurs networks meetings. I
Yeah,
think in the past.
yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, it's small world, as they say. Obviously, I'd imagine with you being flat out with the business or businesses, your bank time is probably very limited.
Yeah, you're right. I actually had, when I first got into coaching at a high level, I probably took about
Mm.
8 years off angling
Right.
completely. And the reason was I was offered a job in America. I sold all my fishing gear,
Mhm.
stupid thing to do. And then the job fell through last minute in terms of like couldn't get a visa. So I ended
Ah,
up staying in the UK, not having my fishing gear, and just getting pulled into the world of coaching, which I loved, but
yeah.
I just didn't get back into fishing again for years. And it was only
Mhm.
for my 30th, a few years ago, that Leonie, my partner, bought me some fishing gear, which was basically probably a mistake on her behalf. But she bought me some fishing gear, and you know what it's like. She bought me some basic kit, and I've just upgraded, and got back into it. But yeah,
Yeah.
ultimately, with me being around the world, not being able to be away from home too much. Her father unfortunately passed away at the back end of last year, so I haven't been fishing probably since July now either. Yeah, I've not had much bank time. So hopefully the rest of this year will look a bit different for me, and I'll be able to
Yeah.
get out at least a couple of times a month. Is probably my mission, my objective.
Yeah. We'll have to pencil in a session, I think, and we do a podcast. We'll do that podcast on the bank
Yeah, definitely sounds
finally.
good.
Yeah, they're really good. Obviously, I've seen some of your catch reports. Obviously, you've done a bit with Gaz Fareham, haven't you? So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so obviously, as I mentioned before, had a big break from fishing, and what I found when I first was going through, you know what it's like. I started watching the YouTube. I started getting the magazines again. I started going to the tackle shops. You just get sucked right in, and I didn't necessarily feel like the sport had moved forwards a massive amount, like in terms of I couldn't understand anything, but
Yeah.
I quickly learned that I wasn't very good. I was completely, I was completely rusty. And just for the avoidance of doubt, I was never a particularly gifted angler. It was more just a case of I wanted to be on the bank. It was my downtime. I did quite well, down my local park lake. But ultimately, being now involved with coaching and being a coach at a high level, I value the role that coaching plays in other people's lives when they're trying to learn something. And so I was there thinking, well, I've got some issues and things that I can't do. Like, feeling the drop was not a thing
Yeah.
that I was even familiar with when I was angling when
Yeah.
I was younger. Clipping up and I've, when I first got back into it, I tried clipping up and literally the lead and spawn was just bouncing back because I wasn't following it through and I didn't know that you had
Yeah.
to do that. And there was all these things, and I was basically trying to step up. I was trying to move up to the next level and follow what people were saying, but ultimately, I didn't know what I was doing. Now, as a coach, I know that the best thing to do in those scenarios is just to get help. And
Hmm.
so I started to, scour online and think, well, where can I get some support? And I think I was just scrolling through social media, and I noticed that Gaz had put on his Gareth Fareham, that is, on his social media, said that he had some, tuitions or tutorials available. And I just dropped him a message. I was just honest. I said, sure, you're really busy and you get inundated, but I've just got back into fishing after a pretty long break off. I need help on these things. And I think I listed sort of 4 or 5 things that I really need support with.
Yeah.
And that's how it started. It was as simple as that. He got back to me within probably a week or so. We got something in my diary, and I managed to get out on the bank with him. And since then, I think we've had 3 or maybe 4 sessions in total, and I've got another one booked in a couple of weeks. But they've really transformed the way that I look at angling and my confidence.
Hmm.
and just some of those basic skills. I can comfortably clip up, do the wraps, um, feel the drop and all that. I'm comfortable with that now, and I just think
Yeah.
if I hadn't have done that and had a bit of coaching, it might have taken me 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, based on how many times I can get
Yeah,
out of the bag
absolutely.
and to learn that. And so for me, it's a no-brainer. Yes, you've got to spend a bit of money, but I don't hesitate to go down the tackle shop and drop a couple of £100 on bits and bobs and luggage and bait. And I think
Yeah.
actually, if I can just put that money towards a session with someone with enormous expertise like Gaz, who's
Hmm.
actually probably saved me a couple of years in terms of making mistakes,
Yeah.
and so that's how that relationship with Gaz started, really. And so I kind of see him now as he's a mentor, which is great.
Yeah.
He's obviously a great guy to know in the fishing world.
Absolutely. And I have to, I mean, I've met Gaz a few times, and he's probably one of the nicest people out there as well, isn't he? He's just such a nice person.
Yeah, I think so. I think yes, you've hit the nail on the head. He's a lovely guy. That's that. I mean,
Mm.
and I'm fortunate to have come across the right person in a number of ways. One, he's a lovely guy. Two, he's a great teacher, and that's because his actual background is literally
Yeah.
in teaching. He's come from a school and college environment, teaching photography and things. So he
Hmm.
understands the role of teaching. He knows how to work with people, and
Hmm.
so casting is something that I've had a lot of issues with, and I don't. And
Right.
maybe some of your audience can relate to this, but I'm not adverse, or I'm quite a technical gymnastics coach. I'm teaching gymnasts, 12-year-old girls, to do double twisting, double back somersaults. Like, I understand technique, I understand movement, and I can be coached myself. But
Yeah.
still, I've got issues when it comes to like really giving it some welly with the rod, because I've got this confidence
Right.
thing of it. I don't know whether it's because I cracked off a lot when I was younger and it's kind of ingrained.
Yeah.
I don't. And maybe some of the listeners can also relate to that, but I really struggle to give some welly. So
Yeah.
Gaz is there being extremely patient when I'm just cocking up cast over cast over cast. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this is a nightmare. But he's just like totally calm, takes it in his stride. He's like, just take a breather. It's absolutely fine. And that's the sort of thing you need in a coach. You don't need
Yeah.
one adding to your stress and anxiety. And so I think him being a great guy, him genuinely caring about the result that I got from the session, and making sure that my needs were met in that respect,
Hmm.
and him being such a great angler was just a fantastic combination. Because he doesn't really. I mean, he does fish, but he could quite easily, if we did a few 48-hour sessions, he'll just chuck the rods out wherever. He's not interested in what
Yeah.
he gets out of the session. It's dedicated time on what I was doing. So yeah,
Yeah.
really good, really good.
Brilliant. What was the biggest takeaway from your first session with Gaz, would you say?
Um, right, I'll talk you through the first session. So we went to Junction 12 down in Reading,
Hmm.
around the M4, and I'm just gagging to get the rods out. So I've turned up. I've obviously met Gaz for the first time. We've driven up to the lake, which we've got access to. We're the only ones there. Literally, I guess my expectation was we're going to park the car, get the rods out, and just literally just get the rods out, just get them in the water. And
Yeah.
we must have been talking for 45 minutes to an hour. And I think
Yeah.
I haven't discussed this with Gaz, and I hope I didn't show it, but I was probably feeling quite impatient. I was probably thinking, I just want to get the rods out. And then he's like, right, let's go for a walk, shall we? And I was probably like, I just want to get the rods out. But we're doing like a slow lap of the lake. We're stopping for 20 minutes in a couple of spots. I'm just want to get the rods out. But ultimately, again, that's his experience of knowing there's no point setting up in the wrong place
Yeah.
where the fish aren't there. So that was
Yeah.
one of the biggest things to start with. And of course, he did explain that all later on, that you've got to be in the right place and what to look for. But I guess the other thing was about the importance of attention to detail.
Hmm.
Certainly when it comes to like application of bait, definitely when it comes to presentation and the rigs. Like he did a whole masterclass with me on like stripping down the rigs, getting rid of all the unnecessary stuff on the rigs to make them more streamlined, make them tangle proof, make sure that they can always be presentable. Will this rig reset itself? All of that kind of stuff. But just those minor details, like, no, that's not good enough. Do that again. Like, literally start that rig again. That wasn't good enough. And
Yeah.
I'd say to him like, oh, that hair's a bit long, isn't it? He's like, yep, start again. Or there's a kink in that. No, start again. And it was that kind of that attention to detail, which I'm used to in my coaching. because I
Mhm.
can't produce or coach an Olympic level athlete without that attention to detail. But actually,
Mhm.
bringing it into this other world of fishing for me was totally unique. And it's that element of being patient again. And now I think in my head, if I was to go on the bank and Gaz isn't there, I say, would Gaz be happy with that?
Yeah.
Or what would Gaz say? Like, so yeah, that rig doesn't sit well. Oh, I can't be asked to do another one. No, Gaz wouldn't be happy with it. Do it again. And I think that's something obviously which is immensely powerful to take into my fishing moving
Yeah.
forwards. You know,
No, definitely. I'd imagine as well the casting side of things. Was there a point where you were, like obviously you mentioned earlier, when you were trying to find a spot, say to settle down for the night, that you had X amount of cast just to get it right, and Kaz wouldn't let you settle until it was bang on?
yeah, 100%. And I think everyone can relate to the fact that you're trying to get a spot going. You want to get all your rods out before it gets dark. You're on last light. You're under pressure. I'm cocking it up over and over again. I'm already feeling impatient, and yes, a lot of pressure there. But that's exactly what he would do. I would sort of feel it down. He would like, "Do you feel that, donk?" I'd be like, "Yeah, sort of," and he'd go, "Do it again." And I'm like, "Oh, is that a good idea? I've already done like 15 cards. Yep, do it again. Get it right." But it's an important lesson. It's no different to the way that I would approach coaching a gymnast. It's like,
Yeah.
you can do it better. Like, don't settle for that, because as soon as you settle for that, like, you've dropped your standards. And at the end
Mm.
of the day, when you get in your bed chair, you want to be able to lay there and go, "I'm really
Yeah.
happy with how that looks," rather than having that
Yeah.
self doubt.
Yeah, that tiny bit of niggle, because you'll probably only end up redoing it just before you go to sleep when it's dark anyway.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So there's been some real lasting things there, and of course, aside from the obvious technical things of right, and again, it's details, but this is how you do your cast. Right, this is the casting. Feel it down. First unclip, make sure the line's in the right place. This is how you should place your rod on the rest, and make sure that you're not dragging the lead. And it's those details that you think don't matter
Yeah,
until someone teaches you, because ultimately you don't know what you don't know. Like
yeah,
you
absolutely.
you can watch the YouTube stuff and you can read the books and the magazines, and you don't notice all the little things that they do so intuitively and because of their experience that you don't do
Mm.
until someone's standing over your shoulder. And that's not the way that Gaz does it. He doesn't scrutinize everything that I do. He just coaches you and talks you through it. But yeah, powerful stuff, I think. And obviously, it's led to some really good sessions with Gaz as well in terms of like results, which is always a
Brilliant.
great thing.
That was going to be my next question. Why
Mm.
don't you? How did the first session go, and then talk us through the sessions after that?
So my ultimate ambition was I wanted to catch my first 30.
Mhm.
I had a list of things that I need to sort out. So I need to sort the casting, feeling for a drop, and all that sort of stuff, clipping up. But also I knew that like in that year I wanted my first 30. My PB was a 29:12 at that point, so I was close to it. And I did two 30s in that first session with him. So I think that was a scraper 30 pound 12, and then a 34, I believe, or something around there, around that mark, I believe it was. Yeah, I think that's about right. And so that was obviously awesome. I would have been happy with one fish, let alone a
Yeah,
30, let alone two. So that was really good. And it was just nice to be on Junction 12 Lake, which is a great lake.
mm.
Nicely stocked, lovely place
Yeah.
to
It's,
be. Yeah.
it's got some decent fishing, hasn't it? That one.
It does, yeah. It's got some lumps in there, which is nice. I'm just having a look. Really, I've got my computer in front. I don't know if I've said that right in terms.
Yeah.
Yeah, 30 pound one and 34.15. So they were my two captures, and
Oh, well.
Gaz is obviously a good photographer as well. So we got some nice pics. That was good.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. And then we
Oh,
returned
brilliant.
to Junction 12 at a later date. This was in this time last year. Actually, it was May,
Hmm.
mid-May last year, and that session was literally the session of a lifetime. Beyond both of our expectations. It was back on Junction 12, another 48-hour session, and I did I caught 10 30s and a 29 in 48 hours, and it was just everything just seemed to fall into place. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't predict that. I mean, and
No.
I can't say that was anything down to me being skillful. That was down to the fish were on. We were there in the right place, and I had Gaz as my secret weapon. That's ultimately what
Yeah.
what it was. And I think another interesting story there, Dom. I'm sorry if I'm waffling here.
No. No. Carry on.
Just coming back to the location piece, that was a very similar day that we
Hmm.
turned up. There was a pretty strong wind pushing into sort of two areas of the lake, if you like. One was the
Yeah.
bottom end, and the other one was a sort of a bay further up. And again, I just that was a day that I just got the rods out because we weren't sure where to go, and so
Mhm.
I got the rods out. I just chucked some singles out, and Gaz was like, "Right, I'll see you later. I'm going to go and see if I can find some fish." And he's gone up a tree down in the bottom, and he's called me and he said, "I think you need to move. We need to come down here." And I think I was probably like, "Oh God, I've got to move," you know. But I did that.
Biggest lesson
Yeah,
there.
just pain in the arse. I was comfortable.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen any fish whatsoever, but just because there was a good wind, I thought I was in the right place.
Yeah.
And so ended up moving, changed the rigs over a little bit, and he'd been up a tree and literally seen sort of two or three fish in this bay. And whilst I
Mm.
was getting the rods reset up again, a fish had topped in this corner, and I actually had a rod ready. I cast out, it landed in the rings of where the fish had showed, and we were just setting it. We were just getting it set, and it wasn't even on the rest yet, and it was
Mm.
away straight away, and that was
Wow.
another 30 straight away.
Oh,
And
brilliant.
yeah, and for that point, I didn't move from that spot, or I didn't go far from that spot for the next 2 days. And like I said, we did the sort of 10:30s at 29. Gaz had a few fish over 30 as well, and I smashed
Wow.
my PB up to 38.6 now as my PB
Oh, brilliant.
that session. Yeah, so again, that was using Gaz's expertise
Yeah.
and on location. Because if it was up to me, I would have been down the other end of the lake, and I probably would have stayed there.
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, you mentioned there, and you sort of touched on it very briefly, that you switched your rigs round. What were you doing, and what did you switch to when you were on the fish?
Oh crap! You're testing my knowledge. This is a year ago. I would say it was probably. I can remember what we're doing. We're presenting single hook baits. So I think we had some sort of pop up rig on originally, and I think
Yeah.
we then swapped that around to a helicopter D rig, which was presented like critically balanced
Hmm.
instead.
Yeah.
So using some of the sticky specials.
Yeah.
I think it might have been a krill wafter actually, or something like that. And yeah, just literally just a single hook bait in the middle of where the fish were, and a handful of baits chucked around. That was all we were doing in the daytime, and in the evenings we were spotting out some more bait instead. So yeah, bit more
Yeah.
pods. We
Did you
weren't.
get through quite a bit of bait?
Yeah, a few kilos. We weren't filling it in. It was
Yeah.
actually, I think the session picked up the more time that we were there. I think most of it happened in the sort of the second half of the
Right.
trip. I mean, literally, we were down to I couldn't keep a rod in the water for sort of more than 90 minutes or 2 hours. I don't think without it trickling off and there being a 30 on the end. I mean, this is what I mean. It was just a trip of a lifetime. And but think the first half we kind of concluded that the fish were there, but there must have been something wrong with the way that the rig was sitting because it was
Right.
like a cauldron. The fish were there, they were topping, there was bubbles everywhere. I just wasn't getting the takes. So, I don't know what happened. You never know, do you? I think that's the interesting thing with fishing. You can come
Yeah.
up with all sorts of conclusions, but ultimately,
Yeah.
you never actually really know.
No,
Um,
exactly. That's it, and that's
mm,
the beauty and the sort of mystery of it, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I do know definitely it's ingrained now that if I'm going to turn up at a lake, I'm leaving the rods in the car until I've done the laps,
Yeah.
until I've given myself the opportunity to find fish, see fish, and I've got something to go on.
Yeah, well,
Um,
you covered it perfectly then. You said the rod wasn't even on the rest after you moved on to the fish,
yeah,
got the cart bang on, and it was away.
yeah, yeah, in the right place, and again, if it wasn't for Gaz, I would have stayed up the other end, thinking and feeling confident, thinking, "Oh, the wind's blowing down here. It looks really nice." We'd seen a
Yeah.
couple of fish up there, but ultimately, 90% of them were down the other end.
So that's interesting. You said that was in May as well,
Yeah, that was mid-May. Yeah,
right? That's funny because obviously Lance Barton's been a guest on the show a couple of times. Obviously, he had a big hit from Christchurch, so not that far away from where you were, and that would have been around that time. I
yeah.
think mid-May. Um, yeah, he had a massive hit as well. So I went down and did an episode with him. So I
Mm.
wonder if I don't know, the conditions were just extra sort of aligned or bang on. I don't know. Yeah, it just seemed to turn up loads of fish everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, the weather was good, so I think you're looking at spring well underway. Weather's good.
Mm.
There's a nice wind. I think all those things together probably just really turn the fish on.
Yeah, I suppose the water temperature as well was just perfect.
Exactly. It was in the shallow area, so that's getting the
Yeah,
sunlight. It's heating up quicker. So again, I just think everything's aligned, and I doubt I'll ever have a session where I catch 10:30s in a session again in the
yeah,
UK anyway. And but now it's on to the 40. You know what? We're all
yeah,
probably like it. You pick one box, on to the next one.
yeah.
30 pound common next, and a 40 would be lovely.
Wow. What was going through your mind, Nick? Obviously, after say the second or third 30, what were you thinking?
This is ridiculous was definitely in my head, but my arms were knackered as well. I mean, it's relentless, you know what it's like, and then the good fight and
Yeah,
fishing junction 12, so it's a bit relentless when
yeah,
you're constantly doing that, and then you're doing the photos, you're constantly lifting up fish, putting them down,
mm,
the rods off again, you didn't get any rest. It was, yeah, it was just good fun, and I think that's another thing. I've always fished on my own,
yeah,
so just having a bit of company on the bank's nice.
yeah,
As you said, Gaz is a great guy, so there's a lot actually we've got in common with some of our interests, even outside of fishing as well, which is nice. So
mhm,
we're able to, just enjoy a bit of company on the bank as well. I think so. For me,
yeah,
it was just quite a surreal experience, spending time with
mm,
and learning from a top level angler who I'd consider a friend now, and having that sort of fishing experience, which was, it was great, really good. So
yeah,
looking
that's
forward to the next one. We've got the next one booked in 2 weeks. Whether or not we'd get out on the bank or not, of course, is another thing. But
yeah, yeah. Who knows? Obviously, there are whispers of it being relaxed and lift.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. We do. It's just speculation, isn't it, at the minute?
yeah, yeah. But I would say, just for anyone listening that might, because I mean, I've been quite honest here that I've had a lot of issues with casting, confidence issues,
Mm,
making stupid mistakes and that. I would just say consider, if you can invest a little bit in having someone help and guide you, and just save you a lot of time. And
yeah,
ultimately, they would save you a lot of money because you wouldn't be filling in the lake with bait that you're spending money
yeah.
on, like doing the wrong things. Maybe you got the wrong
Or
rig.
banking time, yeah,
Yeah,
as
you've got
well.
the wrong tactics, and
Mm,
so ultimately you're spending hundreds on going fishing because, tackle and bait's expensive, and
mhm,
you might not be leveraging what you're doing because you're doing it wrong. And and sometimes it's kind of removing our bias towards, what we're doing and reflecting on it and saying, well, actually, yeah, if someone just gave me a little bit of help here, it might make my fishing more effective, and then maybe you might enjoy it more. So I just think it's worth doing in any aspect of our lives. We're only well, the only way we can get better is by learning, and the best way to
yeah,
learn rapidly is to get mentorship and support from someone that's actually been there and done it. This isn't an advert for Gaz, so to speak. I mean, I fully endorse everything that he does. I think he's fantastic. There are many other people out there that will offer a similar sort of service, aren't they?
yeah.
This isn't necessarily about Gaz. That's just my experience, but it is about the power of coaching and mentorship.
No, definitely. I've excuse me. I used to do like sprint racing. I had a Mitsubishi Evo, and I used to go to different. I could do a sprint series with that, and then one time they'd arranged for a couple of race drivers, professional race drivers, to turn up and do a bit of coaching. And so I jumped at the chance. It's only about 30 quid to do a couple of laps with them, and exactly what you said. I learned so much in just a short space of time,
Yeah,
learning from somebody that knows and has done it for years. And I think, like I say, whether you can afford it or not, I'd say just go for it because, and as well, on that note, just, I think that with men, there might be a bit of an ego thing about it as well. It's like, oh no, I know how to
100%.
do it, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
Just get rid of your ego and get on with it.
yeah. I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Ego has got to be removed because we've just got to just have the humility to say I just don't know it all.
Yeah.
And that's fine because none of us know it all. Like
Mm,
even like with someone like Gaz, he would say to me, I'm learning all the time, and I know that he's been on a massive learning curve with some of the big pit waters and the stuff on the continent and things, and
yeah, I bet.
and I think just the better anglers are the ones that are more open to saying, maybe I need a bit of help, or yeah, I'm on a learning curve, I need a bit of support, or where can I find that information? They're just better at getting the information they need in order to be good anglers, and that's in any walk of life, isn't it? I mean, obviously, like
Yeah,
in
definitely.
gymnastics, in my world, if you're not open to learning, you get nowhere. It's
Hmm.
only the coaches that are really open to it and have got a growth mindset that will get anywhere near an international and Olympic level. You've got to have something about you, and yeah, whether that's I mean, I don't think it's necessarily just a male thing, of course, but it is one of our attributes. I think that we are quite proud, aren't we? That I don't need help. I've got this. I'm all right. I've got it. But well, in my case, we're just like, I definitely haven't.
Yeah,
It could have been
absolutely. Yeah,
a train wreck.
yeah. I'm completely agree with you, mate. If there's a better, more efficient way of doing things, or quicker way, or safer, anything, I'm up for learning it and doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's only so many times I wanted to be on the bank, spomming out and the spom bouncing back towards me before I realised
Yeah,
that I should probably get some help here because this don't look too good anyway.
yeah. Or you crack off because you've not feathered it down or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, all those sort of amateur schoolboy errors, which would, yeah, new experiences for me.
Yeah, no, definitely. Do you know, obviously, if your session is going ahead, do you know where you might go with Gaz yet or not?
I don't know actually, because you can imagine there's going to be an influx of anglers going everywhere. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think we're just going to make sure that we can get on the bank first, and then we'll go from there. I'm a member of RH Fisheries Water, Acton Burnell, as a syndicate.
Oh, yeah.
I can't actually take Gaz there because he's not a member, but that's going to be my
Right.
syndicate water for the year. I was a member last year, but only went down once again because of sort of my partner's father passing. It just wasn't a good idea for me to be leaving her at home
Yeah.
and getting on the bank. So that was an expensive ticket last year for only hitting the bank once, but definitely looking forward to fishing
Yeah.
that this year because it's such a beautiful water. It's a fair drive; it's about 3.5 hours for me from where I am.
All right.
But once you reach, that water, it's unbelievable, and they've got some cracking fish in there.
Yeah.
I know Simon Crow's been on there and done a fair amount of fishing on there as well. Yeah, it's just a beautiful lake. So that'll be
Yeah.
my main water for the year when I do get out and about. But I'll probably leave it down to Gaz really to decide in terms of
Mhm.
where we go.
Brilliant, mate. Okay. I've got a question for you from our last guest.
Okay.
So if we can go on to it's like our rotary letter style thing. Yours is, who would you take fishing and what question would you ask them? And obviously it could be anyone. So
Okay. Well, Terry Hearn probably. I think.
mhm.
What would I ask him? Oh, geez, I'd probably ask him to tell me a story. To be honest with you, everyone likes to tell stories, don't they? So,
Yeah,
probably,
absolutely.
yeah, the question would probably be, "Can you tell me a story?"
Yeah, brilliant.
That
No, I love it. Yeah, we all look forward to his stuff, don't we, when it gets published?
Absolutely, yeah. It's just
Yeah,
just brings back all the memories. To be honest with you, and if I had another option, I'd take my dad fishing,
yeah,
and I'd ask him about our sort of earlier fishing experiences, if you like. I mean, bit of a side note here. So he took me fishing when I was younger. There's a complex called Willinghurst in Cranley, Surrey. It's like a
mhm,
multi-lake complex. It's it's not a specimen complex by any stretch of the imagination. But I caught my first carp there, and it was yeah, just one of those completely unplanned for moments when carnage
yeah.
was let loose. But what an amazing memory that we both had together. And my
Oh,
dad has actually had not caught a carp himself until July, which was my last time fishing last year, and it was one of the hottest
all
days of
right.
the year. We went down to the same complex, and I helped him catch his first carp. And so there was a very nostalgic kind of experience there of
Oh,
him helping me catch mine and me catching helping him catch his first ones and the kind of carnage that ensued. So yeah, anyone else, it'll be my dad, and I just sort of we'll probably just talk about those earlier days fishing together, really.
yeah. Oh, brilliant. Oh, that sounds amazing as well, on the same venue.
Yeah, it's just that's what it's all about, really, isn't it? I think a lot of people angling just connect fishing to their childhood, about that magic and that kind of excitement and anticipation of going fishing and going to the lake. And to be honest, me having a break from fishing, I'm reliving that now.
Yeah,
I can't wait to get back on the bank again, and I probably won't be able to sleep too well on the night before. It's just reconnecting me to that same passion that I had when I was younger. I'm sure
oh,
a
brilliant.
lot
Yeah,
of
and I
people can
think
resonate.
so many are in that boat as well, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Nick, have you got a question we can ask our next guest, please, mate?
Um, okay, so I guess a good question would be if you could fish any water, present or past, I guess, what would it be? So it doesn't matter if it's a syndicate and you can't get on, it just doesn't matter. Any water, where would you be able to fish? Where would you fish? Is that a good enough one?
Yeah, absolutely. What would your answer be to that one?
Oh, bugger. Where would I fish? I don't really know, mate. Probably somewhere with a bit of history to it.
Yeah,
Redmire, maybe.
yeah,
Somewhere with some history. No, actually, I'll
yeah.
tell you where it would be. No, I've got it right. I don't actually know the lake, and maybe you guys, I'm sure the listeners would know. Tel and Jacko go carp fishing. They went to that estate lake. Do you remember
Right.
the ESP DVD they did in the video? It was
Yeah.
and Terry Hearn and Lee Jackson,
Hmm.
and they went fishing on an estate lake, and I've watched that over and over again when I was younger, and that lake just looked perfect to me. It was out in the wilderness. It was an
Yeah.
unbelievable lake. I'd go there. I've got no idea where it is.
Is that the one where Terry goes back to sort of more recently in the ESP series with the boathouse?
In the
He fishes.
boathouse, yes. Yeah, it was that one.
Yeah. Nice. Yes,
Just,
stunning place,
just a
isn't it?
beautiful lake, that one. Unbelievable
Yeah.
lake, great fish, and just like the carpy scenes in there. The steam
Yeah,
rising
you'd
up the lake
happily
into
just
the
sit
water.
there not even cast out, wouldn't you?
Oh,
Just to take
yeah.
it all in.
That's it. And that for me is what it's about. That's why I like Acton and the RH fisheries waters, or
Mhm.
certainly most of them, which are remote lakes out in the wilderness. They look untouched. They're absolutely beautiful, and that's the sort of
Mm.
fishing that I like to do. Because although it's really good at going on a session with Gaz and catching loads of 30s, I would have equally been as happy just sitting by a beautiful lake and just taking it all in.
Yeah,
So
absolutely, mate. Yeah, and just waking up on those misty mornings,
that's it.
seeing the sunrise. Yeah, that's what it's all about,
That
definitely.
is definitely what it's about. That's what I fish for. And yeah, those moments you just can't get enough of them, really. So
Yeah, no, absolutely. Brilliant. Thank you, mate. Right, Nick, we'll wrap up there. Just one last thing.
yeah.
If you can draw a carp for me in 60 seconds, try and do a video of it and then a photo at the end and just ping it across to me and I can do a little competition for when lockdown ends.
Are you joking? You want me to draw a fish? I cannot draw at all. Okay, fine.
See,
Draw a carp in 60 seconds and
yeah,
record a video. Right.
don't worry about not being able to draw, mate. It's not many people can, I've noticed, that I've interviewed.
I'm not on my own then. Okay, no problem. Yeah,
Yeah, trust me, yeah. You'll be fine.
it'll be no Picasso, mate, but I'll do my best.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you can video it as well and then just do a picture at the end,
Yeah,
that'd
cool.
be brilliant.
Awesome.
Great. Brilliant. Nick, thank you very much. It's been really good.
No problem, Dom. Appreciate what you're doing, getting this content out for the gymnastics community. I'm too used to saying that. The fishing community. There you go. Yeah, good stuff. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Brilliant. Thank you, Nick. Take care.
Okay, mate. Cheers.